Blimey, it's colder than a penguin in an ice bath out here. There's only one place we could be for today's League Lowdown, and that's Russia. A country of bustling cities, stunning architecture and historic landmarks. This is the birthplace of political ideologies and chess grandmasters. This is where temperatures drop so low that local townsfolk dress up as Pritt sticks and twirl women around just to stay warm. Where they feast on the unborn offspring of gill-bearing aquatic animals. And where it's never too early for an alcoholic refreshment. But this is also a great footballing nation. One that could be the scene of your next Football Manager adventure. We'll investigate this beautiful nation in the League Lowdown Guide to Russia. So welcome to Football in Russia, in a league that has been running since 1992 following the breakup of the former Soviet Union League. And without further ado, let's have a look at how the league is structured in Russia. Russia's Premier League is home to 16 clubs who play a 30-game season between July and May of the following year, now that Russia has brought its football calendar in line with much of the rest of continental Europe. The team that finishes top after 30 games are of course the champions. The second place team qualify for the Champions League. Used to be 3 teams from Russia entering the Champions League, but they've lost one of those qualification spots. So now the teams placed 3rd and 4th at the end of the campaign qualify for UEFA's newly created Europa Conference League competition, and the winners of the Russian Cup qualify for the Europa League. The bottom 2 teams are relegated out of the top flight. For the 2019-20 season, those teams were Krylia Sovetov and Orenburg as well, and the teams that are placed 13th and 14th go into a relegation playoff with the teams that are placed 3rd and 4th in Russia's second tier, or the National League. So for the 2019-20 season, the top 2 were promoted. Those 2 teams were Khimki and Rota, and normally the teams placed 3rd and 4th qualify for those playoffs, but those didn't take place in the 2019-20 season. The bottom 5 teams are normally relegated out of the National League, but no teams were relegated from the 2019-20 season, although Armavir did encounter financial difficulties and weren't given a licence for the new season. But rather than create a 19-team second tier, 3 teams from Russia's third tier were granted licences to be promoted, so for FM21, the second division in Russia, will be a 22-team affair. But that's how the league works. Who are the interesting clubs that we could take charge of in FM21? If you look for clubs in Football Manager that are already well established at the top of their domestic game, well, Russia has a few names that might just appeal to you. The first of those is Spartak Moscow, the team of the people named after Spartacus, who led the slave uprising. During the Soviet era, other teams in Russia were aligned with the army or the police. Spartak were the team of the working people. Not only are Spartak the team with the most Russian Premier League titles, they're also the most successful club from Russia during the Soviet era as well, winning 12 of those titles, with only Dynamo Kiev able to win more. They've got 10 Russian Premier League titles since the formation of the league. They've got 3 cup victories as well, and they've got some pretty impressive facilities, even by European standards. They've got great training facilities, excellent youth facilities, excellent youth recruitment as well. So this is definitely a club with great pedigree, but no European honours for Spartak, whereas 2 of their Russian rivals have both won continental crowns. And the first of those is Zenit, the club from St. Petersburg, powered by Gazprom money. For much of Zenit's history, they weren't a particularly successful club. They only won the Soviet title once during the 1980s. And even during the early years of the Russian League, they weren't regularly competing for honours. But they're now up to 6 Premier League titles, having won the most recent campaign, and they've also got 3 Russian Cups in their trophy cabinet as well. But arguably their crowning glory was in 2008 when they defeated Glasgow Rangers to win the UEFA Cup, and then a year later they beat Manchester United in the UEFA Super Cup as well. So being a Russian team that has a continental honour in their trophy cabinet just gives them that little bit of one-upmanship compared to Spartak Moscow. But of course they're not the first team from Russia to experience European success. That honour goes to CSKA Moscow, who play in a 30,000 capacity arena. Like Zenit, they have 6 top-flight titles, but they've got greater cup pedigree, having won that competition 7 times. But they were also the first Russian club to experience European glory. In 2005, they went to Lisbon to face Sporting in the UEFA Cup, and they were victorious, making them the first Russian team to win a continental competition and giving them something to brag about compared to their city rival Spartak. So there is your big 3 in Russia, but there are plenty of other Russian clubs out there that might provide you with the challenge that you're looking for. One of Russia's most successful clubs during the Soviet era was Dynamo Moscow. This is a team that was affiliated with the secret police, was the first Russian team to reach a European final back in 1972 when they lost to Rangers. It's also the team of the legendary goalkeeper Lev Yashin as well. This club managed to win 11 Soviet titles and 6 Soviet Cups. But recent years has seen success a lot more difficult to come by for Dynamo. Since the foundation of the Russian league system, they've only won the Russian Cup once, and that was all the way back in the 1990s, and they've never managed to win the Russian Premier League crown either. But if you like the idea of taking a former great name to the top of domestic and European football, well, Dynamo might excite you, but they're not the only team from Moscow that has a little bit of pedigree. Another interesting proposition might be Locomotive Moscow, the team formerly associated with the railways. Now, this is a club that never managed to win the Soviet title, but since the formation of the Russian league system, this is a team that's experienced quite a bit of success. They've got 3 Premier League titles, the most recent of those being just in 2018. But it's as a cup team that Locomotive have found the most success, winning the Russian Cup 8 times, 2019 being the most recent of those. So this is a club that has a glittering history and was also one that's managed to reach the semi-finals of European competition. But if we drop down to the second tier, there is another team from Moscow that might give you a challenge. And the team in question is Torpedo Moscow, who during the Soviet era were associated with the automotive industry. Their success lies back in that Soviet era where they were able to win the title 3 times. They've never managed to win the Russian title, but they do have 1 Russian Cup victory all the way back in 1993. But they're now languishing down in the second tier of Russia's football. This is a club from the south of the city where all of their bigger, more illustrious rivals are from the north of Moscow. And this is a club that is still one of the great names of Soviet football. If you like the idea of taking a team from the second tier back to the top, maybe even winning their first Russian Premier League title, well, Torpedo definitely gives you a challenge. Since the breakup of the Soviet Union and the formation of the Russian League, only 6 clubs have ever been crowned Russia's champions. We've already looked at the 3 from Moscow that achieved that feat. Zenit did it as well. But 2 other provincial teams were also crowned champions of Russia. The first club to do it outside of Spartak was in 1995 when Alania and Rubin were crowned the nation's title winners. This is a team that experienced precious little success during the Soviet era and precious little success since this title win in 1995, with no other major top-flight trophies currently in the club's history. Now, in FM20, they were in the unplayable 3rd division in Russia, but for FM21, they are promoted back to the second tier, so you could take charge of Vladikavkaz and try and steer them all the way back to the top of the Russian game. A club that's perhaps a little bit bigger, still being in the Premier League, is Reuben Kazan. who managed to win back-to-back titles in 2008 and 2009 and followed it up with a cup win as well in 2012. Rubin are still in the top flight, so are a little bit of an easier proposition than taking charge of Vladikavkaz. But if you want to take charge of a team outside of Russia's big three and the powerhouse that is Zenit, well, both Vladikavkaz and Rubin are title winners that you could restore to former glories. But what about if we are looking for an epic Youth Academy challenge? So to find the club in question, we have to drop into Russia's second tier, but what an epic challenge this could prove to be. A popular football manager save is to take charge of Athletic Bilbao in Spain, who of course are only allowed to sign Basque players, but there's a club in Russia's second tier, well, that takes that challenge and raises it significantly. The team in question is Torpedo Moscow, a small club from the nation's capital, and rather than being able to sign players from a particular region of Russia, well, the Devils, as they are nicknamed, aren't allowed to sign any players at all. Everybody that plays for them comes through their youth academy, and it's not like they have facilities that lends itself to creating the next batch of European wonder kids. They've got below average training facilities, adequate academy coaching and adequate youth recruitment. Although they do have good youth facilities, these are youth facilities that have produced the likes of Igor Kolivanov that played for Bologna, Vasily Kulkov who went on to play in Portugal for Benfica and Porto, even Dinyar Bilyanetinov who had a spell at Everton in the Premier League, have all come through the Chertonova Academy. But getting this club even to be promoted to Russia's top tier using just your youth prospects is a challenge. Taking them to the Russian Premier League crown? Well, that is an epic saga that you might take on. There are some other challenges in Russia's second tier that might appeal to you as well, maybe based on the geography of the clubs concerned, such as Baltica, Kaliningrad. Now, Kaliningrad isn't part of the main section of Russia, it's actually an enclave between Poland and Lithuania. If you like the idea of taking charge of a more Western Russian team, well, Baltica might appeal to you, or we could head down towards the Chinese border, in fact just 30 kilometers away, where Khabarovsk play. And if you like the idea of taking a team right from the south of Russia through the Russian divisions and to their premier title, well, that might be another club for you to consider. Or maybe you want to head down to Siberia, where there are several clubs that you could take charge of. Perhaps the most successful is Tomtonsk, that play in the city of the same name, and they've played plenty of Premier League football throughout their history, although as yet have not been able to win either the Russian Cup or the Premier League crown. Maybe you're the manager that could guide them to that ultimate glory. So there is the League Lowdown guide to Russia, a nation that possesses some incredibly big clubs, ones that have experienced a small taste of European glory, but there's also some pretty epic challenges out there for fans of Football Manager to consider as well. We're going to see you next time as we make another nation the focus of our next League Lowdown.